Right now, as you're relaxing and listening to these words, our Earth is still silently spinning on its axis at a speed of over 1,600 kilometers per hour. At the same time, the blue planet is tirelessly journeying around the Sun at a velocity of 107,000 kilometers per hour, and our entire solar system is also drifting along at a speed of 828,000 kilometers per hour around the center of the Milky Way. But here's what should truly give us pause. If an observer were standing at the very center of our galaxy and pointed the most powerful telescope human imagination could conceive in this direction, they would see absolutely nothing. The Earth, it seems, is completely non-existent to the vast universe. We are entirely invisible. We are even smaller than a lone speck of dust floating in an endless ocean of emptiness and profound darkness. And that's just talking about our own galaxy. When we expand our view to the observable universe, the numbers become so absurd that the human brain simply can't process them. There are more stars in the universe than all the grains of sand on all the beaches of this planet combined. And there are more galaxies than there have been seconds since the moment of the Big Bang that birthed the universe. Amidst all that greatness, floating in a small arm of a very ordinary galaxy, is a damp rock covered in life that considers itself something very special. In the next few moments of calm, you will join me in exploring 3 truths that will forever change the way you look up at the starry night sky. First, you will understand why the immense distances in space make the Earth mathematically non-existent to any distant civilization. Second, you will realize why light, which we always thought was the fastest thing, is actually hopelessly slow when it comes to interstellar travel. And third, you will have to confront a possibility that even if there are millions of intelligent civilizations out there, we will probably never know of their existence, and they will never know of ours. You will discover things that might keep you up at night, or perhaps, paradoxically, they might help you sleep better, because then you will understand that all the little problems that troubled you throughout the day are in fact completely insignificant when we put them in the proper perspective of the vast cosmos. If you love the mysteries of space, subscribe to the channel to join me on this journey. Our adventure begins right now. We all grew up with a rather comfortable and tidy image of the universe. In school, we were often shown colorful diagrams where the planets of the solar system were neatly arranged like billiard balls around the sundial. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, all lined up in an understandable, almost friendly row. The textbooks led us to believe that space was an organized, mappable place, as familiar as a small neighborhood where each planet had its fixed position, and everything operated with the absolute precision of a Swiss watch. They told us that Earth was special, the only known blue planet with liquid water on its surface, home to millions of species, a lone bright spot in the darkness where life had sprouted against all odds, and all of that, indeed, is true. Of course, the Earth is extraordinary, but the version we were taught in school deliberately omitted a crucial detail, a detail that could spoil the optimistic story the educators wanted to convey. They didn't tell us just how small we really are, how completely and utterly tiny we are compared to anything that exists beyond our atmosphere. Let's think about this for a moment. If you could shrink the sun down to the size of a basketball, the Earth would be smaller than the head of a pin and located 26 meters away from that basketball. Jupiter would then be the size of a large marble, 140 meters away, and Neptune, the last recognized planet in our system, would be over 800 meters away, barely visible as a tiny dot. But that's just within our solar system. When we start talking about distant stars, the scale becomes completely incomprehensible. If we keep that same scale, where the Sun is a basketball, then the star nearest to us, Proxima Centauri, would be over 6,500 kilometers away. That means if you place the basketball sun in Madrid, the star Proxima Centauri would be on the other side of the ocean, farther away than New York City. And remember, we are only talking about our nearest star, the neighbor next door, the star we can almost touch in galactic terms. But the reality is much darker and more solitary, because those school diagrams, those friendly images of the universe, made an unforgivable mistake. They were not drawn to the correct scale, and the fact is, they never could be. If they were drawn as things truly are, the planets would be completely invisible. They would be nothing more than microscopic dots lost among thousands of pages of pure black space. The distance between Earth and Mars would take up kilometers of paper, and the distance between the Sun and the next star would require a scroll of paper long enough to wrap around the world several times. Perhaps the educators lied to us out of compassion, because this truth is too immense for the brain to digest immediately. Our observable universe has an estimated diameter of 93 billion light-years. A light-year is the distance that light travels in 1 year, moving at a speed of nearly 300,000 kilometers per second. That means light, the fastest thing that exists in the universe, according to the laws of physics as we know them, would take 93 billion years just to travel from one end of the visible universe to the other. And that's only what we can see. The real universe, the part that exists beyond our observational horizon, could be infinitely larger, or it could simply be infinite. And amidst this staggering vastness is Earth, a dot so small it can be considered mathematically irrelevant. As the scientist Carl Sagan once said, "We are just a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam," but even that poetic description doesn't seem to fully capture the truth, because you can at least see a speck of dust with the naked eye if the light hits it just right. Earth, on the other hand, is completely invisible to the universe. Let's do a little thought experiment to help you understand the extent of our invisibility. Imagine you are an alien astronomer living in a galaxy 1 billion light-years away from the Milky Way. You possess technology that humans can't even dream of. Telescopes the size of entire planets, sensors capable of detecting the faintest electromagnetic radiation, and quantum computers that process data at speeds that defy all understanding. You belong to a Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale, a civilization that has mastered the energy of its entire galaxy, and you decide to embark on a search for life in the universe. You point all of your most advanced instruments in our direction and begin to scan. The first thing you'd encounter would be a very basic problem. The light reaching your alien eyes right now actually left Earth 1 billion years ago. When that light began its long journey, our planet was a very different place. There were no humans, no dinosaurs, and hardly any complex multicellular life. What you would see, if you could see anything at all, would be a primordial Earth covered by oceans, teeming with tiny single-celled organisms and nothing more. But here's the real problem. You wouldn't be able to see any of that. Absolutely nothing at all. The Earth is so small and so faint that its signal would be completely swallowed by the background noise of the universe. Our sun, our star, is just a rather ordinary yellow dwarf star. In the Milky Way alone, there are billions of stars just like it. From a distance of 1 billion light-years, the sun would be completely invisible, even to the most advanced instruments we can imagine. It would be like trying to see a tiny firefly flickering in the middle of Tokyo from a high mountaintop in the Andes on a foggy night. At the exact moment, the entire city has a blackout. And if even the sun is invisible, just imagine the Earth. It's a rocky planet that doesn't emit its own light. It only reflects a tiny fraction of the sunlight it receives. Moreover, it orbits its star at such a close distance that even if you could detect the sun, this tiny planet would be drowned in its blinding glare, like a shadow swallowed by a massive spotlight. From the universe's perspective, we simply don't exist. And remember, this isn't pessimism or detached philosophy, This is pure physics. It's unchangeable mathematics. The reality of the universe we live in, whether we want to accept it or not. Astronomers on Earth have had to develop incredibly ingenious techniques to even detect planets orbiting other stars. For example, the transit method, where we have to observe a star for a very long time and try to detect the extremely tiny dips in brightness that occur when a planet passes in front of it from our point of view. It's like staring at a distant streetlight and having a mosquito fly between you and the light, creating an incredibly brief flicker in its brightness. Thanks to this meticulous technique, we have discovered thousands of exoplanets, distant worlds orbiting other stars, some of which are in the so-called habitable zone, where temperatures might allow for the existence of liquid water and the seeds of life. Each new discovery creates waves of enthusiasm and speculation about life out there. But there's a detail that's rarely mentioned. For this transit method to work, the planet's orbital plane must be almost perfectly aligned with our line of sight. Imagine if a planet were orbiting its star at a slightly different angle relative to our perspective. We would never have the chance to see it cross in front of that star. We would forever miss that subtle, telling flicker. Scientists estimate that less than 1% of the existing planetary systems in the universe are oriented in a way that allows us to detect them using the transit method. That means, for every one distant world we are lucky enough to find, there are at least 100 other planets that remain completely invisible to us. And that's not even counting the smaller planets, the planets that are too far from their host stars, or the ones that produce transits so faint that even humanity's most sophisticated instruments cannot register them. For every world we find, there are thousands of others we don't see. For every solar system we catalogue, there are millions of others still shrouded in the vast darkness. And if we, with all our advanced technology and burning passion to observe the universe, still can't detect the majority of the planets out there, then just imagine how difficult it would be for an alien civilization to notice our presence. The reality is that our Earth isn't intentionally broadcasting strong radio signals into deep space. Well, technically, we are, but those signals are incredibly weak. The radio and television programs humanity has broadcast over the past century are scattering in all directions, diluting with distance until they become meaningless static, indistinguishable from the cosmic background. At a distance of just a few light years, our signals are already undetectable, even with giant antennas the size of an entire city. We have sent a few intentional messages into space, most notably the famous Arecibo message in 1974. But those transmissions were very brief, aimed at only a few specific targets, and represent an infinitesimal fraction of what would be needed to make ourselves noticed amid the chaotic electromagnetic symphony of the universe. Realistically and humbly speaking, humanity is completely silent, and our planet remains dark. We are just a tiny, invisible dot in an eternal ocean of night. There is something incredibly gentle and humbling in this realization. For millennia, we humans believed that the Earth was the center of the universe. We believed that everything in the sky revolved around us, that the heavens existed only to adorn and guide us, or to send sacred signs from the gods. The astronomer Copernicus once moved the Earth from the center of the solar system, and at the time, this caused a shocking scandal. Later, Galileo pointed his primitive telescope to the heavens and discovered that Jupiter has its own moons. This discovery proved that not everything revolved around our little world, and for that, he was nearly burned at the stake. Every step forward in astronomy has been a powerful blow to humanity's collective ego. First, we bitterly realized the Earth was not the center of the solar system. Then, we discovered that even the sun wasn't the center of the galaxy. Next, we were stunned to find that the Milky Way was not the only galaxy, but just one among billions of others floating about. And now, in the 21st century, we are beginning to understand something even more unsettling. We are not only not the center of anything, but we are also exceedingly small and insignificant. So much so that, to any observer at typical cosmic distances, we simply don't exist. Not because we're hard to find, but because we are utterly undetectable. The light emanating from our star, even if it could be seen from distant galaxies, is only telling a story of an obsolete past. It's a story that happened millions or billions of years ago. A story in which humanity does not appear at all, because when that light began its journey through space, there were no humans on this planet, no civilizations, and no one here to wonder if anyone else was looking back at them from the distant stars. And by the time our current light, the light that carries the image of humanity, reaches those distant galaxies, if it ever arrives clearly, we will likely no longer be here. Humanity has a finite lifespan as a species. We might last for another 1,000 years, another 1,000,000 years, or longer if we are truly lucky and make the right decisions. But eventually, like all species that came before us, we too will disappear, and the great universe will continue on, not registering our absence, just as it never truly registered our presence. This is the cosmic reality that our school textbooks chose to hide, not because it's wrong, but because this truth is too immense, too cold, and too indifferent to explain to children who are just learning multiplication. But now, we are no longer children, and it's time we bravely face this naked truth. The Earth is completely invisible on a cosmic scale, not figuratively, not poetically, but literally invisible, a point so small it gets lost in the rounding errors of any cosmic equation. And yet, right now, here we are, aware of our own insignificance. We are capable of comprehending the enormous scales that dwarf us. We look up at a universe that cannot see us, and we still can't stop asking if anyone else out there is doing the same thing. That incredible ability, that intense curiosity that drives us to look up and ask questions, is perhaps the only truly special thing we possess. It's not our position in space. That's irrelevant. It's not our size. That's negligible. It's our ability to know we are negligible and still choose to move forward. But before we get too philosophical, there's something else you need to understand. Something that makes our invisibility in the universe even more absolute than what we've described. Because we haven't even really talked about the actual distances, the distances that make interstellar travel impossible for anything made of ordinary matter. Our universe is about 13.8 billion years old. That's a number so huge, it's almost impossible to comprehend with a normal mind. But let's try a little comparison to help you better understand humanity's place in this unimaginable timeline. Imagine that the entire history of the universe is compressed into a single calendar year. The Big Bang would happen at the stroke of midnight on January 1st. The formation of the first stars would take place around late January. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, would form around March, but the solar system and the Earth wouldn't appear until early September. The first single-celled life would emerge in mid-September, but complex multicellular organisms wouldn't appear until mid-December. The dinosaurs would dominate the planet throughout Christmas week and go extinct on December 26th. And finally, us humans, the proud, conscious species, would only appear in the final minutes of December 31st. The entire recorded history of humanity, from the first ancient civilizations to this very moment, would take place in the final 14 seconds before the clock strikes midnight. Just 14 short seconds in a long, drawn-out year. That is all we represent on the vast timescale of the universe. A mere blink of an eye, a faint breath, a moment so fleeting it barely registers on the great stopwatch of creation. However, in those meager 14 seconds, we have achieved extraordinary things. We have discovered the laws that govern the universe. We have unraveled the deepest secrets of the atom and the stars. We have sent probes beyond the limits of our solar system. We have looked back in time to the verge of the Big Bang. But the truth is, we arrived at this party far too late. The universe had been operating for billions of years before our arrival. Stars had been born and died, galaxies had formed, collided, and merged. Planetary systems had emerged around countless other suns, offering innumerable opportunities for life to arise and evolve. If intelligent life is indeed something the universe produces with any regularity, then it's very likely that other civilizations existed before us. They might have had a head start of millions or even billions of years to develop. Some civilizations may have colonized entire galaxies, while our ancestors were still learning to walk upright. However, strangely, when we look up at the night sky, we see no evidence of them. This is the heart of what scientists call the Fermi paradox, named after the physicist Enrico Fermi, who is said to have posed the question during a lunch with colleagues in 1950. The question is simple, yet it has a devastating effect on our beliefs. If this universe is so old and vast, if there are billions of planets capable of supporting life, if intelligent life has an instinct to expand and colonize space, then where is everybody? Why does the universe seem so terrifyingly empty and silent? Why, after decades of dedicated searching, have we still not found a single clear signal of extraterrestrial intelligence? Dozens of answers have been proposed for this Fermi paradox. Some optimists suggest we simply haven't looked long enough, or that other civilizations have actively chosen not to communicate with us. Others, more pessimistic, propose that intelligent life tends to self-destruct before it can reach for the stars. But there is one answer that is rarely discussed in depth, one that connects directly to the theme of our invisibility in this vast cosmos. What if this universe isn't actually as empty as we think? Perhaps it's teeming with vibrant civilizations, but they are all completely invisible to one another. Try to think of it like an endless, dark ocean, where millions of fish are tirelessly swimming in the murky darkness. Each of those fish is alive, conscious, and maybe even intelligent in its own way. Each fish emits faint signals, creating gentle movements and tiny disturbances in the water. But the ocean is so vast, so dark, that no fish can detect the existence of the others. Each creature just swims on alone, convinced it is the only entity in the deep abyss, while in reality, millions of other fish are also swimming in solitude at distances they can never reach. Invisibility in this universe may be the general rule of operation, not a rare exception. And if that's true, then no matter how many civilizations exist, no matter how advanced they become, or how intensely they yearn for contact, the universe simply does not allow these tiny beings to meet across its boundless expanse. But perhaps you find this thought a bit too pessimistic. Maybe you believe that a sufficiently advanced civilization would surely find a way to make itself noticed, that they could build enormous megastructures, broadcast extremely powerful signals, or alter their environment so spectacularly that no one could ignore them. In theory, you are absolutely right. A civilization could indeed make itself visible to the entire universe, but the energy cost to do so is so immense that we cannot possibly imagine it. Let's talk a bit about energy. In 1964, the Soviet astrophysicist Nikolai Kardashev proposed a classification system, also known as the Kardashev scale, to categorize civilizations based on the amount of energy they could harness. This system has three main levels. A Type 1 civilization. These are beings who have mastered and harnessed all the energy available on their home planet. They utilize every ray of sunlight that hits the surface, capture all the heat from the planet's core, and fully exploit the power of the winds and tides. We're talking about a continuous power output of around 10 to the 16th watts. Incredibly, present-day humanity has not even reached this level yet. We are only somewhere around 0.7 on that scale. We still have a very long way to go to truly master the energy of our own planet. A Type 2 civilization. At this level, they are capable of harnessing the entire energy output of their home star, not just the tiny fraction that shines on their planet, but the entire enormous amount of energy their sun radiates every second. This figure comes to about 4 times 10 to the 26 watts for a star similar to our Sunday. This amount of energy is 10 billion times greater than that of a Type 1 civilization. To achieve this, they would have to build something called a Dyson sphere, a magnificent megastructure that completely encloses a star to capture all the radiation it emits. That is an engineering project so vast, it makes all of humanity's greatest achievements look like child's play. And then we have a Type 3 civilization. Beings capable of harnessing the energy of an entire galaxy, from billions of stars to ferocious black holes, all the matter and energy within a structure up to 100,000 light-years in diameter. We are talking about the number 4 times 10 to the 37th watts, an amount of energy so absurd and colossal that no mind can possibly comprehend it. Now, here is the crucial point. For Earth to be visible from true cosmic distances, we would need to tap into energy sources that are completely beyond our current reach. The most powerful radio signals we have ever transmitted quickly fade into the cosmic noise after just a few short light years. To send a detectable message to the center of the galaxy, we would need transmitters millions of times more powerful than what we have now. And if we wanted to send a message to another galaxy, that power would have to increase by billions of times. And the story doesn't just stop with transmitters. Any serious effort to make ourselves visible would require engineering projects on a planetary or even stellar scale. Some scientists have suggested that we could use extremely powerful lasers to send signals. Lasers have the advantage of focusing light into a narrow beam instead of scattering it in all directions, allowing more energy to be delivered to a specific target. However, even the most powerful lasers humans can currently build would be completely invisible at interstellar distances. For a laser from Earth to be detected from the star Proxima Centauri, we would need a power output far beyond any current capability. And that's just our closest star. To reach further, the energy requirements would increase exponentially. The harsh truth is this: cosmic invisibility is not simply a matter of distance or time, but fundamentally a matter of energy. To truly be noticed across the vastness of space requires resources that humanity simply does not possess. We are too small, too weak, and too energy poor. Theoretically, a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization could make itself visible on a galactic or intergalactic scale. They could build megastructures that are detectable from afar, or alter their stars in easily observable ways. They could emit signals so powerful they would pierce through all cosmic interference like a scream tearing through the eternal silence. However, humanity is far from reaching that level, and there's no guarantee that we ever will. For decades, astronomers have diligently searched for traces of Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations. They have looked for Dyson spheres around stars. They have hunted for unusual energy emissions or artificial changes in the light from stars. But the result is that they have found nothing at all. This could mean that such great civilizations do not exist, or that they are too far away for us to detect. Or perhaps, even the most advanced civilizations face physical limitations that we do not yet understand, barriers that prevent them from becoming visible, no matter how much energy they command. Physics might be the final arbiter of this invisibility. There is always a limit to how far a signal can travel before it is swallowed by the background noise of the universe. The cosmic microwave background radiation, the echo of the Big Bang, fills space with a ceaseless whisper of energy. Any artificial signal must contend with that persistent whisper, and over great enough distances, The cosmic whisper always wins, not to mention the problem of the speed of light. Even if you could broadcast an infinitely powerful signal, it would take millions, even billions of years to reach distant galaxies. By the time it arrived, the civilization that sent it might have been long extinct. And then there is the expansion of the universe. There are regions of space moving away from us faster than the speed of light. No signal from us can ever reach them. And conversely, their signals can never reach us. The universe seems exquisitely designed to keep living beings apart. But now, let's explore another aspect of this invisibility, one that belongs not to physics, but to biology and the very nature of humanity. Life on Earth has existed for about 4 billion years. Yet, for the vast majority of that immense span of time, it consisted entirely of single-celled organisms. Simple bacteria and archaea dominated this planet for billions of years without evolving anything even remotely resembling intelligence. Complex multicellular life only appeared about 600 million years ago. The dinosaurs ruled the Earth for 160 million years without ever building a telescope or sending a message to the stars. Billions of species have existed, yet only one developed the technology to look out into the cosmos and ask, "Is anyone else out there? Only us." This demonstrates that technological intelligence is not an inevitable outcome of evolution. It is not something that life will automatically produce if you give it enough time. On the contrary, it is something exceedingly rare, an anomaly, or perhaps even a fortunate accident that is unlikely to be repeated. It requires a specific and random chain of events to occur. If just one small link in that chain were changed, humanity might never have existed. If the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs had not struck the Earth, mammals would never have had the chance to diversify and dominate. If the continent of Africa had not dried out several million years ago, our ancestors might never have left the trees. And if not for the harsh ice ages that forced early humans to learn how to make tools and cooperate, we might never have developed complex language. We are the product of a series of cosmic accidents and random evolutionary turns, and it's hard to believe that these rare accidents could be repeated in a similar fashion on other planets. Perhaps the universe is teeming with life microbes in subterranean oceans under the ice of distant moons, bacteria floating in gas clouds, or simple creatures crawling on the seafloor of some alien world. But intelligent life, capable of building telescopes and pondering its place among the stars, is likely an exceedingly rare thing. It's quite possible that we are the first beings to emerge in our corner of the universe. Or perhaps we are the only ones. And if that is true, our invisibility takes on an entirely different meaning. We are not invisible because too many others are vying for attention. We are invisible simply because no one is looking, no one is searching, and no one is wondering if another soul exists. This universe, perhaps, is just an empty and silent stage, a place where there is only one audience member, engrossed in a performance with not a single actor on it. We are that lonely audience, and the deafening silence we hear when we point our radio telescopes to the stars is not, in fact, the silence of civilizations choosing to hide. It is the true silence of an uninhabited universe. But there is also a completely opposite possibility. The possibility that this universe is actually teeming with intelligence, but that all civilizations are facing the same intractable problem as we are. All are invisible, all are isolated, and all are looking up at an empty night sky, wondering if they are the only ones. It's as if the universe is a maximum security prison, where every inmate is held in solitary confinement. They can scream, they can bang on the walls, they can try to make any noise, but the walls of space-time are so thick and the distances so vast that no message can ever get through. Each civilization is born, develops, and dies in complete isolation. never knowing if it had a single companion in the void. It's a sad and bleak image, but it also contains something strangely comforting. Because if our invisibility is the natural state of things, then we have nothing to prove. There is no cosmic standard for us to strive for. There is no galactic audience for us to try to impress. We can simply be ourselves, a tiny species on a small blue planet, doing the best we can with the short time we have. There is a thought experiment that philosophers have debated for centuries, known as the tree falling in the forest. The story goes, if a tree falls in a deep forest and no one is around to hear it, does it truly make a sound? Physically, the answer is simple. Yes, it certainly makes a sound. Sound waves are still generated, whether or not there are ears to receive them. Sound exists as an objective, physical phenomenon, even if no one perceives it. But the philosophical question goes further. It touches on the meaning of existence. Does something that goes unobserved truly matter in some deeper sense? And now, try applying that question on this grand, cosmic scale. If our human race exists and one day goes extinct without any other intelligence in the universe knowing of it, did we ever truly exist? If we built magnificent civilizations, created art, knew love, and suffered pain, but all of that vanishes without a trace in the cosmos, did it have any meaning? I'm not talking about religious or spiritual meaning. I'm talking about meaning on a purely cosmic level. Does our existence leave any imprint on the fabric of the universe that can outlast us? And the most honest answer is probably no. Our Earth has existed for about 4.5 billion years. For the vast majority of that immense span of time, there was no observer, no one to record, and no one to wonder what it all meant. The first 3 billion years of Earth's history are almost a complete mystery. We only know that life existed, simple bacteria and organisms floating in the vast primordial oceans. But those creatures left no memories, wrote no diaries, and built no monuments. Everything we know about that era comes only from ancient rocks, from tiny microfossils, or from chemical signatures accidentally preserved in deep geological layers. It's like trying to reconstruct a person's life just from the accidental stains on their old clothes. And then, in another 4 or 5 billion years, when the sun gradually expands and swallows the inner planets, all evidence of whatever happened on Earth will be completely erased. The rocks will melt into lava, the fossils will evaporate into smoke, the majestic monuments we built, the bustling cities we erected, the precious books we wrote, all will be incinerated by the devastating fire of a dying star. If no one comes to find us before then, if no external intelligence records our existence, we will be exactly like that falling tree, toppling in an endless forest of time, a sound no one heard, a story no one told, and a civilization no one remembers. There is something deeply unsettling about this idea, because our brains have evolved to find meaning in everything. We want to believe that our actions have consequences, that someone up there is watching, judging, and keeping score. For millennia, religions have offered humanity the image of such a cosmic observer, a being who sees all, remembers all, and gives meaning to even the smallest life. How comforting it is to believe that nothing is lost, that every pain has a purpose, and that every joy is recorded in some celestial ledger. But modern astronomy has cruelly shattered that illusion of centrality. There is no evidence of any cosmic observers, no signs of intelligences diligently recording what happens in every corner of space. There is only emptiness, silence, and an absolute indifference to the small drama unfolding on our planet. This universe doesn't hate us, nor does it intentionally ignore us. It simply has no mechanism for recognizing our existence. We are too small to be registered on its grand scale, and too fleeting to leave any mark on its endless timeline. This leads us to an even more difficult question. If we are completely invisible to the universe, does anything we do here really matter? This is the question that has plagued philosophers for generations. If there are no cosmic consequences for our actions, if everything we do will eventually be erased without a trace, then why should we even try? Why bother to build? Why bother to love? And why try to leave the world a better place than we found it? There are many ways to answer this. One answer is nihilism. If nothing matters on a cosmic scale, then nothing matters here either. We can do whatever we want because the end result is the same. The universe doesn't judge, reward, or punish. But this answer runs into a major problem. It ignores the fact that we exist right here, right now. We feel pain, and we experience joy. We have preferences and desires. Things still matter immensely to us, even if they mean nothing to anyone else out there in space. Cosmic nihilism doesn't erase human suffering. It only erases the hope that this suffering has some higher, external meaning. Another answer comes from existentialism. If the universe does not provide us with meaning, then we will create it ourselves. It doesn't matter if no one else is watching or remembering. What truly matters is that we ourselves have observed and have remembered. Meaning is something we build, not something we passively find. This answer is more satisfying, but it also demands more from us. It requires us to have the courage to take on the responsibility of giving our own lives meaning without any external validation or rescue. It requires us to be both the author and the sole reader of our own story. And then there is a third answer, more humble and perhaps the most honest. Perhaps our question was misplaced from the very beginning. Perhaps the idea that things must matter on a cosmic scale to truly matter is just a remnant of our religious past. It is a miscalibrated ego, always demanding to be the center of something great. You see, a beautiful sunset doesn't need gods to be watching for it to be magnificent. A mother doesn't need the universe's approval to love her child. A beautiful song doesn't need an eternal audience to touch the hearts of those listening to it in this very moment. Things can be profoundly important on a local scale, for a limited time, in our own human way, without needing cosmic transcendence. And perhaps that is more than enough. But for now, let's return to physics for a moment, because there are other aspects of our invisibility that we have yet to explore. We have talked about distance, time, and energy, but we haven't mentioned the very nature of light itself, which limits us in ways we are only beginning to understand. Everything we know about the universe beyond our solar system, we know because of light. Not just the visible light our eyes can see, but the entire electromagnetic spectrum that includes radio waves, microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma rays. They are essentially different forms of the same fundamental physical phenomenon, differing only in their wavelength and frequency. We have absolutely no other way to gather information from the distant universe besides waiting for light. We cannot travel to other stars to observe them up close, nor can we send probes there within a reasonable human lifespan. All we can do is sit here, on our tiny planet, and patiently collect the weary photons that arrive from distant shores. This means our view of the universe is fundamentally limited. We can only see things that emit or reflect light. We can only see things whose light has had enough time to travel to us, and we can only see things whose light is not blocked or distorted on its long journey. Our Earth, unfortunately, fails on most of these criteria when viewed from a great distance. We do not emit a significant amount of light on our own. It's true that our cities shine at night, but that light is pitifully faint compared to the blinding glare of the Sunday. From outside the solar system, Earth's artificial light is completely undetectable. The light we reflect from the sun isn't much better. The Earth reflects about 30% of the sunlight it receives, what scientists call albedo. But that small amount of reflected light is scattered in all directions and quickly dissipates with distance. Just a few light years away from us, the Earth is completely lost in the glare of its own host star. Our Earth reflects about 30% of the sunlight it receives. In scientific language, this is called albedo, but you know, that meager amount of light scatters in every direction, then rapidly fades and dims over vast, unfathomable distances. Just a few light years away from here, our planet is utterly submerged, swallowed by the brilliant halo of its own parent star. And then there's the problem of time. The light rays carrying our image, sent out right now, would take years, centuries, or even millions of years to reach some distant observer. By the time those rays finally arrived at their destination, they would only tell a story of the past, a story that is ancient, obsolete, and perhaps no longer has any connection to our present reality. But the universe is not just vast. It is also filled with subtle obstacles that make us even more invisible. Between us and the distant stars are vast clouds of interstellar dust and gas. There are powerful magnetic fields that deflect charged particles, and there are massive stars whose gravity can bend the path of light as it passes nearby. There are even colossal galaxies that stand like giant walls, completely obscuring our view of what lies behind them. When we look in a certain direction in the night sky, sometimes all we see is an empty void. But in reality, something is blocking the way. Even looking toward the center of the Milky Way, our view is partially obscured by dense dust clouds, which are busy absorbing all the light visible to the human eye. The same happens in reverse. An observer elsewhere in the galaxy would find their view of us obstructed by these very same barriers. Perhaps our planet is hidden behind a dense nebula or outshined by a brighter star on the same line of sight, making our solar system completely invisible to them. The very structure of the cosmos seems to conspire against our visibility. We are not just small and faint, but we are also deliberately concealed by the grand tapestry of space around us. And there is something else, a truth that physicists have discovered over the past few decades that makes our position stranger than ever before. Visible matter, the stuff that makes up stars, planets, gas clouds, and us, actually accounts for only about 5% of everything that exists in this universe. The rest is made of mysterious things we cannot see directly with our eyes or any instrument. About 27% of the universe is what science calls dark matter. It doesn't emit light, absorb light, or interact with light in any way we can detect. We only know it's there because of the gravitational pull it exerts. Galaxies are spinning much too fast for the amount of matter we can see, and something invisible is holding them together, preventing them from flying apart into the void. And the remaining 68% is dark energy, a mysterious force that is quietly accelerating the expansion of the universe. We don't know what it really is, but we know it's there because we can see its effects on space. So, when we talk about Earth's invisibility, we have to place ourselves in that vast context. We are just a tiny fragment of that meager 5% of visible matter. We are sculpted from ordinary atoms, things that can interact with light, that can be touched and measured. Yet, even within that privileged 5%, we are still completely invisible. We are lost within the visible world itself, submerged in a small corner of the universe that is theoretically detectable. Imagine you are a tiny speck of dust in a vast room, and someone tells you they can only clean 5% of that room's area. And it turns out you're in that exact 5%, but you're so small that the broom sweeps right past without ever touching you. You are exponentially smaller and exponentially more forgotten. To help you better visualize this sense of cosmic invisibility, I'd like to invite you to a small thought exercise. Relax your body and imagine you can leave your physical form, not in a spaceship, but as a stream of pure consciousness capable of traveling instantaneously to any point in space. First, you float just above the city where you live. You look down and see the streets, the buildings, and the cars moving slowly like tiny ants. Even at this altitude, the figures of individual people have become difficult to distinguish. They are just minuscule dots amidst the colossal structures they themselves have built. You continue to fly farther away, and now the entire country appears before you. The borders that mean life and death to us become completely invisible from this perspective. All that remains are landmasses, vast oceans, and the whimsical shapes of clouds. You fly farther still. The Earth now fits entirely within your view. It is a surprisingly small, gentle blue and white orb, floating silently in the overwhelming darkness of space. You can no longer see the continents, the cities, nor can you find any sign of an intelligent civilization there. You continue your journey farther out. The Earth is now just a pale point of light next to a much brighter source, the Sunday. The Moon has almost vanished into nothingness. The other planets in the solar system are just even fainter pinpricks of light, scattered in a pattern you could only find if you already knew where to look. You fly farther, even farther. The Sun is now lost among its neighboring stars. You can no longer distinguish your home star from Proxima Centauri, Sirius, or any other star in the vicinity. Earth is completely gone. There's no way to point back to what was once called home. You venture deeper into space. Now, you are looking at the Orion Arm of the Milky Way, a sparkling band containing billions of suns. Our star is just one of them, but you wouldn't be able to pick it out, even if someone pointed directly at it. They all look identical, and all are equally small. You fly farther still, until the entire Milky Way is within your field of view. It is a magnificent spiral of light, with soft, curved arms rotating slowly around a brilliant center. It's beautiful, impressive, but also so silent. There is no way to know that in some hidden corner of that giant spiral, there is a tiny planet where creatures full of feeling are wondering if they are alone. You pull back farther and farther still. The Milky Way shrinks to just a faint smudge of light in the void. Around it, similar smudges begin to appear. The Andromeda Galaxy, the Magellanic Clouds, and dozens of other dwarf galaxies that make up what we call the local group. You pull back even farther. The local group disappears into a celestial sea of galaxies. Billions of islands of light are scattered across the endless expanse. Clusters and superclusters of galaxies form great filaments and walls of light, surrounding voids of absolute emptiness. Finally, you pull back so far that you can see the entire visible universe. It is a giant sphere, 93 billion light-years in diameter, containing everything that light has had time to reach since the Big Bang. And there, Earth is nowhere to be found, not because it has vanished, but because it was never visible at this scale to begin with. It is too small to be registered, too dim to shine, and too fleeting to leave a trace. We are but a grain of sand among countless beaches, a drop of water in the ocean, a single heartbeat in the entire history of time. That is the true meaning of being invisible on the staggering scale of the cosmos. However, there's a paradox in that this very invisibility carries with it a certain sense of liberation. Being seen can be a prison, but anonymity can be freedom. There's a poetic idea that the scientist Carl Sagan often mentioned, that we are the universe's way of knowing itself. It's a comforting notion that through us, the vast universe has developed eyes to see itself, ears to hear itself, and a mind to understand itself. For 13 billion long years, the universe existed with no one to admire its beauty. Stars burned out and died with no one to witness them. Galaxies collided in absolute silence. Black holes swallowed entire worlds without anyone's knowledge. Then, on a tiny, rocky planet orbiting a completely ordinary star, something miraculous arose. It was consciousness, the ability to look outward and ask questions, the ability to create tools to extend our senses far beyond their natural limits. For the first time in its long history, the universe had a mirror. That is a beautiful idea, but it also carries a dark side that we rarely have the courage to mention. Because if we are truly the only eyes of the universe, then when we close those eyes, the universe will become blind once again. All the stars will continue to shine, but there will be no one to look at them. All the galaxies will continue to turn, but there will be no one to admire their magnificence. All the beauty and grandeur of creation will still exist, but they will no longer carry any meaning, no longer have any appreciation or awe directed towards them. The universe would have had just one brief moment of self-awareness, like a brief moment of awakening in an eternity of unconsciousness, only to sink back into the dark dream from which it had just momentarily woken. That is the deeper meaning of being invisible on a cosmic scale. It's not just that no one sees us now, but that perhaps no one will ever see us. And when we are gone, there will be no record that we were ever here. But let's try to look at this story from another perspective, about our actual place in space. The Earth is located in what astronomers call the habitable zone of the solar system. It's the region around the Sun where the temperature is mild enough for water to exist in its liquid state. It's not scorchingly hot like Venus, where water would evaporate instantly, nor is it frozen solid like Mars, where water is locked away as ice beneath the surface. This habitable zone is also commonly known as the Goldilocks zone. The name recalls the fairy tale of the little girl who found the porridge that was not too hot and not too cold. It's a cute-sounding term, suggesting that Earth resides in a perfect spot. But there are deeper truths that the term doesn't fully capture. Our position in the cosmos is not merely a matter of thermal luck. It is also the result of a series of other grand coincidences that we are only just beginning to dimly understand. We reside in a strangely just right position within this galaxy. If our planet were too close to the galactic center, the devastating radiation from black holes and the dense stellar population would have destroyed any seeds of life as soon as they formed. Conversely, if we were pushed too far out to the edge, there wouldn't be enough of the necessary heavy elements to form solid rocky planets like Earth. We are fortunate to have been born in a relatively quiet region of the Milky Way, far enough from the turbulent areas where supernovae regularly erupt, wiping out everything in their path. Furthermore, we have a devoted companion, the Moon. It's thanks to the Moon's presence that the Earth's axis of rotation is kept stable, preventing our climate from fluctuating chaotically and wildly. Just imagine, without the Moon's pull, our planet would wobble incessantly like an unbalanced top. The Earth's surface would then endure such extreme climate changes that complex organisms would never have had the chance to exist. We also possess another giant protector, and that is Jupiter. This great planet acts as a powerful gravitational shield, attracting the majority of stray comets and asteroids that, without Jupiter, would frequently bombard our Earth. Thanks to Jupiter's protection, catastrophic collisions are relatively rare, allowing life enough time to evolve peacefully over millions of years between extinction events. And most importantly, we have a very suitable parent star. The Sun is a stable and very long-lived star. It has shone steadily for 4.5 billion years and will continue to warm us for at least another 5 billion years. In the universe, there are many stars called variable stars, where their brightness fluctuates so erratically that life on any planets orbiting them would have absolutely no chance of survival. In addition, we also possess an incredibly ideal atmosphere. The composition of gases is mixed with astonishing precision, allowing for just enough of a greenhouse effect to maintain a temperate climate, but not so much that it turns Earth into a scorching hell like Venus. We have the ozone layer, which acts as a miraculous filter, blocking deadly ultraviolet radiation from space, and we have an abundant supply of oxygen that allows complex organisms to breathe and grow. Finally, we have a suitable magnetic field. It is the fiery liquid iron core in the heart of the Earth that generates a magnetosphere enveloping us. Without this invisible but powerful shield, the solar wind and cosmic radiation would have stripped away our entire atmosphere billions of years ago, leaving behind a barren, cold, and lifeless Earth, much like Mars is today. Every single one of the conditions mentioned had to occur simultaneously, perfectly, for us to be here right now. If just one of those conditions had failed, intelligent life would never have blossomed on Earth. There would be no one here to look up at the stars, and no one to wonder if there is another soul out there. We are truly the product of an unbelievably improbable chain of cosmic coincidences. And this presents us with a troubling question. If our existence requires so many strict and specific conditions, then how many other planets in this vast universe have succeeded in recreating them all? How many planets failed just because they were missing one or two conditions? How many worlds have cool, fresh water but lack a moon to keep their climate stable? How many planets have an atmosphere but no magnetic field to protect it? And how many planets had everything they needed only to be suddenly destroyed by an asteroid right before life could evolve to a higher level? Some scientists have tried to calculate the probability of a planet developing intelligent life. Although the results vary depending on the assumptions we make, even the most optimistic estimates all point to one thing: complex life is extremely rare. Earth may not only be invisible, but it might also be unique. And if we truly are unique, our invisibility carries an even more overwhelming and solitary weight. Imagine being the only conscious creature in an endless, infinite universe. No one else. There will be no one else. You are like the only island named, meaning floating, in a lifeless ocean of matter. That loneliness would be absolute. There would be no hope of contact, no possibility of communicating with anyone. Just you, floating in the void for a brief moment of existence. That may be the deepest meaning of Earth's invisibility in the heart of the cosmos. It's not just that we can't be seen, but perhaps that there is truly no one who can see us, even if we were to shine as brightly as 1,000 suns. The silence of the universe might not be a technical problem of communication. It might be a fundamental reality, a universe completely empty of mind, except for us. But let's also explore the opposite possibility, which is that there are millions of other civilizations out there, but we simply cannot find each other. In physics, there's a concept called the event horizon. It's the point of no return around a black hole, a place where once you cross it, nothing can escape, not even the brightest light. However, there's another type of horizon, less known but more relevant to our conversation: the cosmic horizon. The cosmic horizon is the limit of what we can see in this universe. As we've mentioned before, the observable universe has a diameter of about 93 billion light years. But the important thing I want to emphasize here is this. This limit is not an arbitrary number. It is a real, physical boundary. Beyond that cosmic horizon, there is certainly more universe, perhaps infinitely more, but we can never see it. The light from those distant regions has not had enough time to travel to us since the Big Bang, and due to the accelerating expansion of the universe, that light will never be able to reach us. We are trapped inside a finite space-time bubble within a possibly infinite universe. And sadly, that sphere is shrinking, not in its actual size, but in the amount of information we can access. Galaxies at the edge of the observable universe are moving away from us faster than the speed of light. Every year that passes, more galaxies cross that threshold and disappear forever from humanity's view. Every year, the part of the universe we can reach becomes a little smaller. In the coming billions of years, the night sky will become much emptier and more somber. Distant galaxies will, one by one, sink below the cosmic horizon into oblivion. At that time, Only our galaxy will remain, like a small, solitary island in a sea of empty space. The astronomers of that distant future, if they exist, will have no way of knowing that there were once billions of brilliant galaxies out there. They will look up at a pitch-black sky and will likely come to the false conclusion that the Milky Way is all that exists. The truth of the universe's grandeur will be lost forever, a victim of the harsh laws of physics, and this also has enormous implications for our own invisibility. Even if there are brilliant civilizations in those distant galaxies, even if they are desperately sending out signals in search of others, many of them are already completely beyond our reach. Their messages will never arrive. Their light will never shine in our sky. They are lost to us, as if they had never existed at all. Invisibility, therefore, is not just our own condition. It's the common condition of everything at a sufficient distance. The universe is fragmented into small islands of observability, into space-time bubbles that can never communicate with one another. They are archipelagos of existence, separated by the vast chasms of cosmic expansion. And inside each of those bubbles, living beings are also wondering if they are truly alone. But now, let's return to something closer, more human, because invisibility in the universe isn't just a dry physical phenomenon. It's also a profound psychological one. For almost all of our long history, we humans believed we were the center of everything. We believed the sun must revolve around the earth, that the heavens existed only for us, and that the gods were watching our every little action. This human-centered worldview actually played a very important psychological role. It gave us a sense of meaning, a feeling that we were being watched and cared for. It helped us feel that our lives mattered in some sacred, cosmic sense. Then, science appeared and cruelly stripped all those illusions from our hands. Copernicus took away our central place in the solar system. Darwin erased the special boundary between humans and other animals. Freud took away our absolute control over our own minds. And finally, modern astronomy has shattered every illusion of our importance in the vast universe. Each step forward in science has been a powerful blow to our collective human pride. Each new discovery has made us feel a little smaller, and perhaps the discovery of our own invisibility on a cosmic scale is the most potent blow of all. We are not just small, not just ephemeral. We are, in fact, unnoticeable. The universe possesses no mechanism to even recognize our presence. There is no way for us to leave any mark on that grand, cosmic tapestry. This has created what philosophers call existential vertigo, a dizzying, disorienting sensation in the face of reality's staggering immensity and our own pitiful smallness. It is a quiet terror before the absolute indifference of the cosmos. Some people react to this vertigo by trying to deny it in any way they can. They take refuge in old beliefs to restore humanity's central place. They insist that science is wrong, that there must be supernatural forces watching over and caring for us. Meanwhile, others react with utter despair. They argue that if nothing matters on a cosmic scale, then this life has no meaning at all. They fall into nihilism, apathy, and the feeling that all human efforts are futile. However, there is a third response, one that is more difficult, but also far more honest and courageous. It is to accept our cosmic invisibility, yet still smile and continue moving forward. Because the truth is, we have never needed any cosmic importance to live a truly meaningful life. Our ancestors, from the earliest dawn of time, knew how to give warm love to their families, to work together to build close-knit communities, and to pour their souls into poetry and melodious music. All of these beautiful things happened without them knowing anything about distant galaxies or the endless expansion of the vast universe. You see, the meaning of life has always had a human warmth, has always belonged to the small, intimate things right around us. It is something we build together every day, not some extravagant gift or destiny bestowed upon us by the cosmos. Modern astronomy, in reality, has not taken away anything precious that we truly possess. It has only helped us dispel the illusions of our central position, beliefs that were never necessary for us to live well and happily. When a father tenderly holds his young child, he doesn't need the entire Milky Way to witness that love. When a married couple grows old together, cherishing every moment, they don't need some grand meaning from deep space to be grateful for each other's presence. When an artist creates beauty, they find fulfillment in their own work without needing an eternal audience at the edge of the universe. Everything can be profoundly meaningful right here and right now, even if it might be nothing at all somewhere far out there. And perhaps that is the noblest thing a human being can aspire to. Not some illusory cosmic importance, not a tangible presence among the galaxies, but a life lived fully and authentically in the small corner of the universe we have been fortunate enough to be given. Our invisibility, if viewed from the right perspective, actually brings an incredibly liberating sense of relief. Because we are completely anonymous, there is no one from the distant stars to judge us. There is no one diligently recording our every minor mistake, nor is anyone comparing our fledgling civilization to other, more advanced ones. We are given back the absolute freedom to be whatever we want, to define our own values, and to create our own meaning in life. The universe has left us alone, and in that vast solitude, we find a strange but precious form of freedom. However, there is still one more thing we need to explore together before we conclude this journey. It relates to the flow of time, to memories, and to what will truly remain when we are no longer present in this world. Because, although we are invisible now, there is a question that constantly urges us to find an answer. Can we leave some trace in the void? Can humanity create something that will outlast its own extinction? And can we, somehow, overcome the universe's invisibility to carve our name into eternity? The answer to these concerns is by no means simple. It requires us to look at both the past and the future with entirely new eyes. Right now, there are space probes that we have launched, which are and will continue to travel diligently among the stars for millions of years to come. There are radio signals we have emitted, which are constantly spreading like ripples in a giant cosmic pond. And we have also sent carefully encoded messages on metal plates and golden records, silently waiting for someone, somewhere, at some point in the distant future, to find them. These can be seen as desperate attempts to leave a mark, to call out into the silent void with the fragile hope that someone will listen. And although those messages may never be found, although they may be lost in the vastness of space like bottles adrift in an endless ocean, there is something profound and very human in the effort itself. We do not resign ourselves to invisibility. We are fighting against it every day with all our conviction. And perhaps that, more than anything else, defines our value as a species. We have come a long way together. From the opening words of this journey, you and I have traveled across unimaginably vast distances, through incomprehensibly long periods of time, and across magnificent scales that challenge all the processing capabilities of the human brain. We have watched our beloved blue home, Earth, shrink and then disappear completely as we broadened our horizons. We have understood that light, despite being the fastest thing, becomes hopelessly slow in the face of the immense distances of space. We have had to confront the reality of an ever-expanding universe that is isolating us, trapping us in increasingly lonely bubbles of space-time. And finally, we have faced the most troubling possibility of all, that perhaps we are truly alone, that we have always been this way and always will be. Now is the time for us to connect all these threads of information, to weave a complete picture of the meaning of our invisibility on a cosmic scale, and to find a deep sense of peace in our souls in the face of that reality. Let's start again with what we know for certain. Earth is a rocky planet with a diameter of about 12,000 to 700 kilometers. It quietly orbits a medium-sized star at a distance of approximately 150 million kilometers. That star, our Sun, is actually just one of 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And this familiar Milky Way is itself just one of 2 trillion galaxies that exist within the observable universe. These numbers are so immense that they seem to lose all conventional meaning. They become mere empty, abstract concepts that we utter without being able to truly grasp them. But there is a way for us to visualize them more concretely. If we were to shrink the Sun down to the size of a single white blood cell and shrink the Milky Way galaxy to the corresponding scale, our entire galaxy would be about the size of the country of Spain. And somewhere within that microscopic Spain, there would be a single white blood cell with a tiny speck of dust orbiting it. That tiny speck of dust is Earth. Now, try to imagine 2 trillion such Spains scattered throughout a volume equal to the entire observable universe. 2 trillion galaxies, each containing hundreds of billions of stars, and each star potentially having its own planets, each planet its own moons. And somewhere in that great cosmic sea, there is a single, moist speck of dust where conscious beings look up and wonder what else is out there. That is the reality of our place in this universe. Not a place of honor, not a center of power, but just a forgotten corner in an insignificant neighborhood, belonging to an anonymous city in a remote country, lost in an immensely vast world. And yet, here we are, carrying within us this consciousness and a fierce curiosity, relentlessly asking questions the universe may never answer. There is something deeply paradoxical about our situation. We are at once the most insignificant beings in terms of physical scale, and at the same time, the most extraordinary beings that exist. For all we know so far, we are the only beings capable of understanding our own insignificance, the only ones who can measure the vast distances that diminish us. We are the only beings who can feel awestruck by the immensity. A hydrogen atom doesn't know it's small, and a giant galaxy doesn't know it's great. Only humans know. Only we have the ability to place ourselves in the grand cosmic picture and marvel at what we are witnessing. This capacity for wonder is, in a sense, our species' greatest achievement. It is more important than the majestic pyramids, more enduring than any mighty empire, and more meaningful than any technological feat we have ever accomplished. Because wonder is the most powerful engine that drives us ever forward. It is what made our ancestors look up at the stars and ask what they truly were. It is what drove us to tirelessly build telescopes to see them more clearly, and it is what has led us to send probes to the very edge of the solar system, and to never stop dreaming of journeys even farther beyond. Without wonder, we might have been intelligent creatures, but lacking in curiosity, we would simply live and die, never daring to lift our heads from the ground. The universe would then exist forever, with no one to admire its beauty. Wonder is humanity's most resounding answer to invisibility. It is our way of affirming that even if the universe does not see us, we see it. But you know, there is another aspect to our situation that we have yet to fully explore, an aspect intimately tied to time and the fragility of everything we have. We humans, as a species, have only existed for about 300,000 years. Even if we count from the earliest hominins who knew how to make tools, that number is only about 2 or 3 million years. Either way you look at it, that is an incredibly short period of time, just a blink of an eye on a cosmic scale. And truly, there is no guarantee that we will be able to exist for much longer. In nature, all species must eventually face extinction. That is the inevitable rule of life, not an exception. 99% of all species that have ever existed on this earth are now gone. The dinosaurs once dominated the planet for 160 million years, yet they vanished in a geological instant. The trilobites thrived for 300 million years before becoming completely extinct. We humans are really too young, too new to know if we have the strength and wisdom to endure for the long haul. We are now facing threats that other species never had to worry about. From climate change, nuclear weapons, to pandemics amplified by technology, or the rise of artificial intelligence. Any one of these things could potentially wipe us off the map of life before we even have a chance to reach out to other worlds out there. And if we were to disappear before colonizing other planets, our invisibility in the heart of the cosmos would become permanent. There would be no one left to remember that humanity once existed, no one to tell our story, and no one to know that for a brief moment in time, there was a small planet that nurtured beings who dreamt nightly of distant stars. This may sound deeply depressing, but if you try to look at it another way, you'll see that this very fragility actually makes every moment we are living more precious than ever. The very fact that we might not be here tomorrow gives priceless value to what we do today. If humans were immortal, if our existence were guaranteed for all time, then perhaps nothing would truly matter. We would have all of eternity to do whatever we wanted, and no decision would be urgent. But we are not immortal. Each person's life is truly fleeting, and it is this very fleetingness that gives weight and meaning to our every choice. Every act of kindness you give is immensely important, because it could very well be the last time you get to do it. Every beautiful moment you experience is precious, because there will not be an infinite number of such moments to come again. Every connection between people is to be cherished, because people will not be here forever to connect with one another. Our invisibility in the universe doesn't erase life's meaning. On the contrary, it condenses that meaning, making it more intense and urgent than ever before. We don't have time to waste on things that are meaningless. We don't have an eternity to fix our mistakes. We have only this brief flicker of conscious existence, and what we do with it is all we truly have. Every beautiful moment we cherish is incredibly important, because in the endless river of time, there will never be an infinite number of such moments again. Every single bond between people is also so precious, because we can't be here forever to find each other. Our invisibility in the vast universe doesn't erase the meaning of life. On the contrary, it condenses that meaning, making it more intense and urgent than ever. We truly don't have time to waste on things that don't really matter. We don't have an eternity to fix our mistakes either. You and I, we only have this one brief blink of conscious existence, and what we choose to cherish and do today is all we truly have. Before we conclude this journey, there is an image I want to leave in your mind. An image that captures our place in the universe more clearly than any dry statistic. In the year 1990, the Voyager 1 probe was preparing to leave the frontiers of our solar system. It had journeyed tirelessly for 13 long years, moving away from Earth at a velocity no man-made object had ever achieved. By then, it had crossed Neptune's orbit and was about 6 billion kilometers away from our home. The astronomer Carl Sagan persuaded NASA to turn Voyager 1's camera back around, to look toward the solar system it was leaving behind, to look toward Earth. The result was a photograph that completely changed how humanity perceived its place in space. In that picture, Earth appears as just a tiny, pale dot, a faint blue pixel suspended in a sunbeam. No continents are visible, no oceans can be distinguished, and there is absolutely no sign of civilization. Just a tiny dot, a minuscule speck, lost in the overwhelming vastness of the black void. Carl Sagan wrote about that photograph with words so eloquent and deeply moving they have resonated for decades. He reminded us that everyone who has ever lived, from powerful kings to poor farmers, from revered saints to wretched sinners, from lovers in embrace to sworn enemies, all of them lived their lives on that tiny dot. He spoke of the rivers of blood spilled just so one group of people could gain control of a tiny fraction of that pixel for a fleeting moment in history. He reminds us of our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the only home we've ever known. That photograph, affectionately named the pale blue dot, is perhaps the most honest depiction of what we humans are. An invisible world adrift in the immense darkness, a tiny speck of dust illuminated by a rare sunbeam, an unbelievable miracle of life and consciousness in a seemingly indifferent universe. And if that image sometimes makes us feel crushingly small, it also provides endless inspiration, because that tiny blue dot contains everything, all of history, all of culture, all love and loss, every symphony ever played, and every poem ever written. It contains both the laughter and the tears of every human being who has ever existed. A small dot can hold infinite meaning if you know how to look deeply into it. Now, try to think about this. The Voyager 1 spacecraft is still steadfastly continuing its journey. It has been away from Earth for more than 45 years now. It is currently more than 24 billion kilometers away from us, silently pushing deeper into interstellar space. Far beyond the direct influence of the Sunday, the ship carries with it a golden record, like a time capsule containing the most characteristic sounds and images of Earth. There are greetings in 55 different languages, music from diverse cultures, the sound of ocean waves, the wind blowing through a great forest, the sound of a passionate kiss, and even the beat of a human heart. That record is our extraordinary effort to overcome invisibility. It is like a small bottle containing a message that we have cast into the cosmic ocean, a silent scream of humanity toward the eternal realm. Perhaps that message will never be found. Interstellar space is so utterly empty that Voyager 1 could travel for billions more years without ever nearing another star. And even if it were to pass through some other star system, the probability of someone finding it is infinitesimally small. But we were determined to do it anyway. Despite knowing it might be in vain, despite knowing the probability of success was extremely low, we still chose to send a message into the void. We were determined to leave a trace and refuse to accept invisibility without fighting to the very end. That speaks to a very profound truth about humanity. We never resign ourselves to fate. We do not accept the narrow limits the universe imposes on us. Though we are small beings, we always dream grand dreams. Though we live but a fleeting life, we always long to touch eternity. And even if we are invisible, we still do everything we can to be seen. That effort is futile, it is irrational, but it is also beautiful and deeply inspiring. And perhaps, in the end, that is the only thing that truly matters. Not whether the universe sees us or not whether anyone finds our message or not, or whether we manage to leave any eternal mark in the cosmos. The most important thing is that we had the courage to try. The important thing is that we never gave up. Amidst an overwhelming invisibility, we still resiliently chose to shine in our own way. We are reaching the final steps of this journey. You and I have traversed unimaginable distances together without ever leaving our seats. We have contemplated timelines that stretch far beyond normal human comprehension. We have faced truths that could paralyze the heart with terror or despair. But look, we are still here, still observing, still asking questions, and that, in itself, is the most glorious victory of all. Earth may be completely invisible on the grand scale of the cosmos. That is an undeniable physical fact. However, physical invisibility does not necessarily have to mean existential meaninglessness. Each of us has the right to choose the meaning for our own circumstances. We can choose to see the vastness of the universe as a curse of mediocrity, or choose to see it as a humble invitation to wonder and appreciate. You can choose to feel crushed by your smallness or feel liberated by it. The universe does not inherently grant us meaning, but it doesn't take it away either. The meaning of life is always something we create ourselves, something we weave among kindred spirits, something that exists in the connections between people, in acts of sincere love, and in the beautiful moments we are fortunate enough to share with one another. You know, no telescope can detect the immense love of a father for his young child. No spectroscope can measure the soaring emotions that a symphony brings. And no probe can record the intangible value of a deep conversation between soulmates. These things, while completely invisible to the great universe, are the most real and precious things we hold in our hands. So, from now on, when you look up at the starry night sky, don't just see a vastness that makes you feel small. See also the miracle that you are here to witness it. See the magic that you have eyes to see, a mind to understand, and a heart to feel a sacred sense of wonder. The universe may be indifferent, but you are not. And that ability to never be indifferent, that capacity to care, to wonder, and to love, is in fact more extraordinary than any brilliant galaxy out there. Now, as these reflections fade into the quiet space, I want to invite you to settle into a moment of true peace. Close your eyes if you wish. Take a deep, slow breath. Feel the weight of your body on the surface of this blue planet as it silently spins in the endless void. Remember that you are made from the very atoms that were forged inside the hearts of fiery stars that died billions of years ago. The iron in your warm, flowing blood, the calcium in your strong bones, or the oxygen in your lungs. All of it has its origins in the distant cosmos. You are truly a part of the stardust, a part of the universe that has learned to contemplate itself, and although you may be invisible to the vast universe, the universe is alive within you. Every tiny atom in your body is a piece of the cosmos. Every thought in your mind is the universe contemplating itself, and every emotional vibration in your heart is the universe feeling its own beauty. You have never been separate from the vastness around you. You are an indispensable part of it. A small part, yes. A fleeting part, certainly. But a part with the miraculous ability to comprehend the entirety of that greatness. And perhaps that alone is more than enough for one human life. Perhaps we don't need to be seen by the universe. Perhaps it is enough that we can see the universe. We don't need to try to leave some eternal mark. Just living well, living fully in the time we have here, is already a great achievement. We don't need some distant cosmic meaning. The meaning we create with our own hands, among our loved ones, is warm enough. The night out there is full of stars, shining without any knowledge that they are shining. But you are the one who knows you are witnessing them. And in that silent act of observation, in that peaceful awareness, lies a form of magic that no telescope can ever capture. Now, just let sleep come if you feel tired. Let these ideas float gently in your mind, like clouds drifting across the quiet night sky. You don't need to solve anything right now, nor do you need to reach any final conclusion. You just need to be present here, in this very moment, in this one and only unrepeatable moment of conscious existence. The earth will continue to spin steadily while you are deep in sleep. The stars will continue to burn in the dark night. The galaxies will continue their tireless journey away from each other in their eternal dance of expansion. And tomorrow, when you wake up, the universe will still be immense. You will still be incredibly small, but you will also still possess your same miraculous capacity for wonder. And that, perhaps, is the greatest gift the universe has generously bestowed upon us. Not visibility, not importance, and certainly not eternity, but the ability to see, to be amazed, and to know that we exist. To witness the beauty of creation, our journey ends here, but the questions will always remain. They will continue to float in the darkness like the twinkling stars themselves, silently waiting for a soul to come and contemplate them. Sleep well, traveler of the stars. Rest well. The universe may be endless, but this peaceful moment belongs only to you, and that is more than enough for one long night.